Let's take a look at the fantasy basketball waiver wire. We're going to talk about guys that have been added. We're going to talk about blokes that, honestly, some of you have never heard of. Michael Bolton. You've heard of him.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and if Taylor Horton-Tucker has 1 million fans, I'm one of them. If Taylor Horton-Tucker has 5 fans, I'm one of them. If Taylor Horton-Tucker has 1 fan, that one is me. If Taylor Horton-Tucker has no fans, then I'm no longer alive. If the world is against Taylor Horton-Tucker, I'm against the entire world. Till my last breath, I'll support Taylor Horton-Tucker. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, we're going to lockedondaily.com. Sidle over there. Hit the subscribe, enter your email, get the best NBA newsletter for your favorite NBA team. And of course, you're subscribing here and you're double banging, you're commenting. We've got 2 weeks to go. And if you're going to chuck a comment in of, hey, make sure you're still doing the recaps all the way through for us who go to the end of the season, I will. That's what we do. That's what we do here. It's what this channel is. It's not a my league is over, so I stopped doing the shows channel. We keep doing it, and we keep rolling all the way through the off-season, all the way through the playoffs. I don't think I've ever done this before. Now, I'm pretty sure I won't do it, but I don't think I'll do like recap shows of the playoffs. And there's very, very obvious to me, but reasons why. And one of the main reasons is that A, this is the time that I have off, and B, I don't really see much of the fantasy relevance of that. There'll be discussions on some of that stuff, and we'll probably include little bits and pieces of it, but it won't be, if I do it, it won't be like, hey, games have ended, I'm dropping a recap show. I definitely won't be doing that, but we'll see what else comes of it. We're here to talk waiver wire. It is World Backup Day. So if you don't have backups of your stuff, what are you doing? Is it in the cloud? Is it on separate hard drives? Where is your stuff that you need? Because like what happened to me when my computer blew up at the All-Star break, I had all of my files backed up. So all of my graphics, templates, and everything that I needed to produce this show was there. It just took a day to get it all back together, but we were good. Back your stuff up. It is important, and I almost learnt that the hard way. Well, I did learn it the hard way. I already knew it, but I think you know what I mean. Should we talk about the fantasy basketball waiver wire? I would like to do that. So let's take a look at the most added players across on Basketball Monster, and then using the Yahoo data as well. The most added player on Basketball Monster, I'm using a 48-hour period here, is Adem Bona, and then his Philadelphia 76ers teammate Jared Butler. Bona was great on Saturday. Adem also played really well, and the thing with that is Drummond's not coming back, so it's going to be a lot of Yabusele, it's going to be a lot of Bona. And last game we got Bona and Yabusele starting together. I would love if we got 29 minutes of Bona every night, and I don't think it's an outrageous thing to suggest. We hope that he stays healthy. He's not sitting this back-to-back. He just is a pretty clear must-roster player. Jared Butler's going to be up and down depending on what happens with Jeff Dowtin, who's got 2 games left on his contract. Because there's only 2 games left, and maybe they do sign Dowtin to a full deal. I wouldn't say he's done enough, and he's 27 years of age. I don't think he's super exciting Dowtin, but Butler would be the guy that I want there, and he's an okay guy to roster as well. The next most added player is Ryan Rollins, who was great in the last game. And it made sense. We sort of figured it out that Porter started that game because Giannis was out. And then when Giannis returned, they didn't need Kevin Porter's wild and inefficient offense, so he moved to the bench. Rollins will not be as good as he was in that previous game, but at the moment, him and Gary Trent are at least 12-team interesting. Julian Champagnie of the San Antonio Spurs, I'm going to guess that people added him because of the weekend back-to-back, because I wouldn't say his production would suggest that he's a must-roster player, and we just keep rolling with it that way. The guy that I do want to talk about here in a little bit of extra detail is in Toronto, and it is the big fella himself, Shedworld, Jamal Shead, who is... he's an interesting player who's had a few interesting moments this season. He has had times when, here's some big minutes coming, and then he plays too well and they bench him. He is 156th over the last week in fantasy basketball, 86th in points leagues. He's got a decent usage. He's rostered in only 7% of leagues. He's averaging 14, 3, and 5 with 1.8 steals, and that's who he is. He's an assists and steals guy who can have some shooting moments. He's not going to be particularly efficient. You can look at those field goals and free throw percentage numbers there. And he's doing this in only 24 minutes. Now, the slight problem I have, I guess, with Shead and the Raptors is if they win this game on Sunday, and I think they will, they're going to just basically be absolutely locked into their seeding. So are they going to keep this every game resting scenario going with Poeltl, Quickly, and Barrett? They might, just to prevent injury and to get development minutes into guys, which means Shead's going to go 28 minutes, 24 minutes. But it also means they're not going to be as absolutely hyper-focused on losing. So if he does play well, he won't get benched so that some other random scrub comes in. So I actually think that 24 minutes from Shead, it's got a potential to bump up, but it's also got the potential if they just say, well, Quickly is going to play the rest of the season here. Again, there is only 2 weeks left in the NBA year, so I don't know that they're going to be like, hey, especially given the injuries that guys like Quickly have had this season and where the Raptors are, they're literally not going anywhere. I can easily see them continuing to do that or even increasing the rest, but it is a bit of a balance to me. I think Shead is worth looking at. As with nearly all of these moves, though, especially if you're talking head-to-head, when we're talking about these moves, you really need to be balancing the value of the schedule. In Roto, it is a little bit different. Like the Raptors, for example, they play on Sunday, but then it's Tuesday and then Thursday, Friday, Sunday. So it's a really rough start to the week, but then the end of the week is very strong. And again, I think that if they win this game against Philadelphia, who is resting everyone and they're going to win, then that means that they're not going to be as randomized, I don't think. But again, I don't know. It is one of those tough ones. I like Shead. I think that he is interesting enough to grab, and I would consider it. The last name on this most added list is Bruce Brown, who I fear that CJ McCollum and Zion Williamson might be done for the year, but we don't know that. They have listed them out again on Sunday. Zion has not played since March 19, and CJ has now rested 3 games in a row. I would be very skeptical of them playing again. And the Pelicans' first game now is not until Wednesday. They've got a pretty bad schedule. They've got only 3 games. It starts on Wednesday, and one of them's on an 11-game day. But Brown was really good in that last game. I don't think that he's going to be good enough to consider as a hold through the beginning of next week. For Sunday, I get why people added him, and then we can go back to him as Wednesday, Friday options. But he's putting up the numbers that are interesting to us. It's just not always going to hit. On Yahoo, the most added players. Remember, Yahoo's reporting period is just like what's happened this day. So, number 1 most added player, and I'm stunned that this is even an ability to add, it's Asar Thompson. Now, Asar Thompson obviously had been struggling, so I guess a lot of people dropped him, and then Tobias Harris was out, and not coincidentally, absolutely, completely 100% correlated, he played 30 minutes. He only plays 30 minutes when Tobias Harris is out. Prove me wrong, you can't, because it's the only 3 times that it's happened this season. So we will see what they do with him. Now, he with Cade Cunningham doubtful again, maybe they give him some extra stuff to do. But of course, Cade's been out a week, and Asar really hasn't done that. So I get why people would do it, and it's just a player playing on Sunday, but I think we got to just be careful with our expectations. Yves Missi, again, this is a single-day stream because you're not holding Missi, who's completely mid with no upside, for 0 games to begin the week next week, so that's okay. But the next most added player is an interesting name that I didn't really think that I was going to be discussing today. It's Timme Hardaway Jr. Now, obviously, with Cade out and we had Tobias Harris out last game, we're getting a little bit of extra stuff here from Timothy, but I looked at his numbers and went, okay, he's the 57th ranked player over the last week. He's averaging 29 fantasy points. What the hell is going on? 22 points a game. How is this happening? Well, the obvious thing is he's just shooting the lights out. 4 threes a game, 56% shooting, hasn't missed a free throw, hasn't generated a steal or a block, and is at 1.5 rebounds. And he had the ankle injury this sort of came back from. So this is, like, he's had some explosion games here. I don't care. I get that you would add him if you're looking for some points and threes, but this is very much chasing that huge game that he had last time, where both Cade and Toby Harris were out, and that's clearly not going to be the case in every game. So while it looks interesting, and this is one of the things we don't like to base all of our decisions on chasing the last game because we understand that that's not a reality. It is always enticing to grab somebody who just had a big game, expecting it to happen again, but the conditions are different. Harris is back, and that's just another guy taking extra shots. So Tim was great. The shooting has been great. Everything else is completely ridiculous. and has he's not going to be able to shoot that well. So while people added him today, and if you're chasing points and threes, I do get it. His role as a starter is there. It's not like a priority ad. It's a nice little bump, a sort of out of nowhere bump. But long term, we do not care. We do not care. What about the other names on this list? We're talking about Toumani Camara, who, again, I didn't realize he'd been dropped in enough leagues to be considered one of the more added players. That's okay. Keldon Johnson was great in yesterday's game. So was Jeremy Sochan. That level of production from Keldon is just not who he is, and that's okay, but he was fantastic. And then people, again, reacted to the fact that Jeremy Sochan started. I think you have to. It could easily just come out of nowhere and we could get bitten again. We have seen it already once, where Biyombo went to the bench and got DMP'd and Sochan started, and then he played 15 minutes in the next game. That could happen yet again. The Spurs are in the middle of a nice run of games. Sochan does have the ability to be a top 80 player, and while the games look pretty good at the moment, you can have a crack at that. Just be prepared to get kicked in the shin. It is distinctly possible that you are going to be limping around going, bloody, why did I trust the Jeremy Sochan run again? I get it. I would probably add him over Keldon because there's just more categorical upside. If I'm in a points league, I would add Keldon because his role is more secure. But I do not trust what the Spurs are doing with this situation, and I don't think you should either. We're going to come back and talk about most drop players and some other interesting names. Before we do that, though, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There is nothing like going to watch sports and basketball live. It's the energy of the crowd, it's the atmosphere, the sounds, the sights, the smells, it's all there. All of that stuff is there, but part of the problem with going to live sporting events is sometimes getting the tickets can be a real pain. That is where Game Time and their new feature, Game Time Picks, comes in. It filters out all the fluff, showing you only the best deals on the grade C. You don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of different tickets. You can just go on there, check the app, see what's in your area, look it up, easy done. Bang, you're already sorted. The super deals also give that little bit of an extra boost onto the value of those tickets, just showing you the real best options that are out there. And you've got the seat view so you can check what you're going to be seeing before you buy them. There's no surprise fees, plus you've got the lowest price guarantee on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Okay, let's take a look now at some guys that have been dropped and just get an idea of the way people have been approaching this on Basketball Monster. The most dropped players over the last 48 hours. Number one, LaMelo Ball. Good, he's done for the year. We know this. Benedict Mathurin. Yeah, look, it's impossible to trust Mathurin's production when the team is healthy. And they had the huge blowout the other day, and the minutes are down. Like when somebody is out, Nembhard, Neesmith, Halliburton, go, do it, try it. If you're desperate for points, like you might be in a desperation, I'm trying Tim Hardaway state, then Mathurin's useful for that. But overall as a whole, absolutely no way. Isaiah Collier's been dropped. He should have been dropped about 6 weeks ago to me. I liked the little flashes he showed. He was a nice assist stream, which you could deal with. But when you're in the fantasy playoffs, that level of player is not a player to hold. Ty Jerome, you know what I've been talking about with Ty Jerome. He's very clearly not a must-roster player. He's out. He's been dealing with this knee soreness and injury, and the Cavs are indiscriminate's the wrong word. They are just planning out rests for a lot of these guys. He has some hot streaks, but it's just not reliable enough. The next one is cousin D'Angelo Russell, who we can't trust that he's going to play out the rest of the season. In fact, I'm pretty sure he won't. And we can move on very comfortably. He will go out there and put up some of the worst shooting performances you've ever seen. I think he is totally cooked as a starting point guard in the NBA, although I do believe the Nets might try to bring him back, and I would be avoiding him very, very hard next season. The last name of that list is just repeat exactly what I said for Ty Jerome. I've said this all season. Might as well throw DeAndre Hunter's name in there because it's the winter soldier, Max Strus. You do not roster these players in 10 or 12 team leagues outside of when the schedule makes sense. Hey, you got a 3 and 4, let's do it. A back-to-back, no problem. Somebody's injured, let's also go. But when they're healthy, you do not bother with these guys. There is too much inconsistency, especially talking about the last 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season where you need production right now, not, hey, here's 7, 4, and 2. Cool, sick, love it. Unbelievable stuff from the big fella. Max Strus. On Yahoo, the most dropped player is Fanapants Kevin Huerter. Okay. I'm going to give a little bit of grace for that. And again, I am not a Huerter guy whatsoever. But I'm going to guess he's one of the more dropped players because let's give the grace understanding here that he's dropped because they don't play on Sunday. And people's leagues ended on Sunday, so they're not holding him. Okay, I get that. But if you dropped him because he had a bad game on Saturday, they start the week with a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back. Those minutes aren't going anywhere at this point. That is a dumb move. If he's your worst player and you desperately needed someone on Sunday, I understand all of that. But overall, this is not the sort of player that I would be looking to move on from because of a bad game. The minutes were still fine, but he just didn't play well. Neither did Josh Giddey. And those guys have been playing really well, right? But we got big games from Vooch, and we got better games from Matas Buzelis. So just sort of swings and roundabouts. But they've got a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back. So if you had the ability to hold on and your season didn't end, I don't think he's one of those just dump and pump sort of guys, or pump and dump, maybe. That's the best way to phrase that. People dropped Scottie Pippen Jr. I do understand that. Ja Morant was back. His numbers were still good, but this I think makes more sense because he only played 17 minutes in that game with Morant back, and while he was productive in that time, it's pretty tough. Sorry, 18 minutes. It's pretty tough to rely upon someone playing those minutes to be a 12-team league guy. They also, though, like the Bulls, have a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back, and it would feel like Morant is probably not playing in both of those games coming back from the hamstring. Probably not, which gives Pippen a little bit of a bump. I'll put these two Kings players together, Keon Ellis and Malik Monk. The Kings were embarrassed in that loss the other day against the Magic. Ellis continued to start over Monk, but he played 18 minutes. Monk played 23. It's hard to read a lot into those minutes because basically from midway through the third quarter, that was just all reserves and their rotation was done. So that is hard to judge that, but I also get it. I understand why you would consider moving on from them. They don't play Sunday. They've got a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule coming up, and there's a lot of uncertainty there. And if you are getting into desperation stakes, if they are your worst 2 or 3 players, that's okay. I get it. I would be very quick to re-add these players for Monday, even though it's been very rough, especially for Monk these last 2 games, and this team continues to make some of the more baffling decisions in the NBA. The next most dropped player is Najee Marshall, and with a lot of players returning, and very interesting, Kai Jones played in that game for the Mavericks and went absolutely bananas, but he could just be forced completely out of the rotation for the next game, Kai Jones. But we also saw that with PJ Washington returning, that impacts Marshall greatly. Now, Marshall had been putting up great numbers, but Jason Kidd's got this idea that PJ plays, so Marshall can only play 26. If Washington's out, then Marshall plays 38. And honestly, with Anthony Davis back, and looking terrible, with Anthony Davis back, and then maybe the return of more bigs, Marshall playing 26 minutes a night is not remotely close to a must-roster player. Him playing 35 is. Him playing 27? No way. So I get it. That actually makes a lot of sense. And the other name on that list is Santi Aldama, who, again, I can't understand. I can't get it right. I can't ever figure this guy out. I thought, yeah, he's starting. We'll go for it now. And then he's been bad as a starter, and then he was benched again under the new coach. And they started Zach Edey, who played, 27 minutes in that game? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with Santi. I don't think he's that good of a player. And every time I say that and say he's a drop, he'll shoot 70% with 7 assists and 4 blocks a game. So I get it. Dropping him makes sense. I would drop him because I'm not a big Santi guy, but also they've got a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back, so maybe he's worthwhile there. Just a tough one for me to figure out. We've got a list of hotties to talk about next. Hot players, guys in the top 100 over the last week, that maybe we need to pay a little bit of attention to. So, hey, let's pay that attention there. Because these are just guys that are most of these players are sort of older players, guys you don't always consider, just rolling along at a nice level. And number 1 on that list is Al Horford. Somehow Al Horford, who really struggled earlier in the season, the second half of the year, they've just gone, all right, we're just going to rest guys. So, Al, you're playing 30 a night and you're going to cook. And he is. He's the 38th ranked player over the last week. And with 2 weeks to go, he's going to have games off. Without question, Al Horford is going to sit games. In fact, he sat the Celtics last game, I believe. Yeah, he did, which was not a back-to-back. They don't have a back-to-back until Tuesday, Wednesday of the final week of the season. He could easily sit the game with the Wizards on Sunday, but they do have 4 games this week, all spread out. And you could see guys like Tatum and Brown and Pritchard and White and Holiday and Porzingis all sit different games, meaning Horford bumps to 27-28 in a lot of these. I'm not saying that he's a must-roster player because I don't believe that he is, but it is an interesting little development. For Utah, is like John Collins isn't coming back. I feel good about that. Is Larry Markkinen ever returning as he reconditions from his illness, whatever the hell that means? He has now missed 6 consecutive games with personal reasons, turning into an illness, now turning into reconditioning. So I don't know whether he is coming back. They've got the Hornets on Monday, so almost certainly Lowry doesn't play there. And Filipowski started last game at center, played big minutes in that one, 34 minutes and 33 the last two starting. One was with Kessler, one was without. We can go back to him. We could get completely rooted on this as well, and he might play 18 minutes in one of the games, but I think we might be there where it's consistent enough. The next guy I do want to talk about is a little bit more in depth, and we're talking about Buzelis, who is the 46th ranked player over the last week. Buzelis has been a tough one to figure out. We thought there was an opportunity when he took that starting job off Patrick Williams that the Bulls would lean in. They were bad, and he would get 30 minutes a night and we'd see what he could do, and then they didn't. They kept his minutes low. He never really got an opportunity to do anything, and it didn't happen. But over the last week, he's the 46th ranked player. He's averaging 32 fantasy points a game. He's playing 29 minutes. He's at 17 points with 3 threes and 7 rebounds. He's blocking a shot a game. He's at 47 and 82. He's a very, very strong free throw guy as a big man. Are we at a stage where it's a must roster? Probably yes, because they have that Monday, Tuesday back-to-back. But we also saw about, 2 weeks ago, where we had that random 27 minutes of Julian Phillips and 15 minutes of Matas Buzelis. But after that game, Buzelis went 30, 24, 25, 38. So, to say that I'm a little confused on what the minutes plan is probably an understatement. But the numbers are there. He's shooting well. He's not hurting your free throws. He's giving you fantasy points and category value. There's actually more that he can do steals-wise. He won't hit 3 threes a game. I'm pretty confident in that. But at the moment, Buzelis is doing enough to maybe be considered a guy that we want to grab. And I'm not so sure how great I feel about it. But I think that, again, with that strong start to the week on the schedule, it makes some sense. The next guy that we take a look at here on this list of hot players is Kelly Olynyk, who, with Zion likely done, Olynyk is intriguing. He's the 50th ranked player over the last week. He's not quite fantasy stud Kelly Olynyk of the past, but 50 is pretty good. The problem here is, much like with Bruce Brown, is they don't play until Wednesday. And they play Wednesday, and then they play Friday, and then they play an 11-game Sunday. That's really bad. So would I rush to add Kelly Olynyk? No. I would add him for the Sunday game and then see what happens, but is holding him for 2 zeros for Monday, Tuesday worth it? Almost definitely not. Now, all of your decisions are going to be based individually on your league. If you're in a league where you can only do 2 pickups a week, then sometimes you just have to bite that fact that you're going to get zeros because you can't actually stream in enough to cover it. And is his value good enough in the other games to make up for it? Probably. But overall, in a general sort of standard sense, you don't want to be waiting on somebody like that who also could get rested at any point just to get a game on Wednesday. Lou Dort is the 67th ranked player. We've seen Dort do this a million times where he has little hot runs and then he cools off completely. They have a pretty balanced schedule next week. Dort, the value is there because there's a lot of guys that we don't know that they're going to play. Pig Williams, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, Aaron Wiggins, all questionable. No idea if they're going to be available or not. Usman Jeng remains out. AJ Mitchell remains out. And they could just cycle through guys like Caruso and a bunch of other guys also. Dort's role is pretty secure unless he gets some random games off because they are just so far ahead in the standings and in the seedings. But in terms of targeting guys for streams, Dort is up there. The last name on that list is Mr. Black. Anthony Black is the 75th ranked player over the last week. With Cole Anthony out, his production has been strong, and we just don't know if Cole is going to return. The Magic have a very weird schedule. It's great. They play Monday, and then Tuesday, and then Thursday. A back-to-back, 3 games in 4 nights. And then the week is over. And I would think that you're getting maximum 2 games out of Cole Anthony, and maybe you only get 1. So I think that Black for next week in particular is really good. But you don't hold him after Thursday. There's no way you hold him with 0, 0, 0 to end the week. And he is hit or miss. We know that. Now, the consistency has improved over the last 3 weeks because previously he'd have a big game and then 7 bad ones. Now it's okay, we have a couple of good ones and then there's an average one, which is a much better step forward. At the moment, the numbers are good. And at the moment, holding him for the beginning of next week makes sense. And then you move on after that. Lastly, I've got 6 other names that I want to talk about. Matisse Thybulle in Portland. We don't think we're seeing Jeremy Grant again. They're listing Scoot Henderson out with a concussion for the game on, for Sunday. And then Anthony Simons popped up as questionable. So losing a forward in Grant, losing a guard in Henderson, losing another guard in Simons. And guess what? Thybulle can play all of those positions. So can he get to 23 minutes a night after not playing all season? Maybe. What can you get out of that? 2 steals, 1.2 blocks? 3 threes? sometimes, not every game. He doesn't do anything else. He will hit threes, he'll get steals, he'll get blocks. That's all he does. But it's going to be worth looking at. Now, their schedule is a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, so there's a 3 and 4 nights in the middle of the week. That's pretty good. And I don't know whether he plays in the back-to-backs, but I believe he did play their first back-to-back since returning from the knee/ankle. I'm just going to double check that. Yeah, he did. But he only played 6 minutes in one of them and then 22 after that. And he was ready to go. We'll see how that goes. But at the moment, you can get some numbers out of him and just sneak them in where you need them with those steals and blocks. I want to highlight this guy's name because he is a guy that, if you paid attention to college basketball, you know the name Drew Timme. He put up huge numbers in college, and now he's on an NBA team, and he somehow is putting up numbers because the team he's on is the Brooklyn Nets. He's 125th in points leagues over the last week. He's averaging 15 and 8, which again, 15 and 8 are big numbers. They are very big numbers, so people look at them. He played 27 minutes. Now, he didn't have a single steal or a block, and he had only 2 assists, and he got there by shooting 65% from the field, and he's still only 170th in category leagues. They are, the Nets, looking like they're going to be moving into full let's preserve guys mode. We had Nick Claxton resting on Saturday. Noah Clowney hurt his ankle again. Cam Johnson got injured again. D'Angelo Russell was out. I think Johnson and Russell are done. I don't know that Clowney's returning. I think Claxton's going to be in and out. And I don't think that Day'Ron Sharpe is coming back. I think that knee sprain is going to keep him out a long time. So theoretically, we could get 27 minutes a night out of Drew Timme. And could he get close to a low-end double-double in that time? Sure. He's also unbelievably slow. He's unbelievably undersized. I'm not sure that his shooting's any good. I'm not sure that he can do anything defensively at all. But he could be one of those players that just finds his way into minutes and into production because of the state of the season and where he is. But, right, this is why I wanted to highlight this. This is a terrible schedule for this team. They play on Monday. That's fine. Then they play on Thursday. Okay. And then they play on Sunday when there are 11 games on. So any idea you might have of, I'm going to add Drew Timme and he's going to be my guy for the rest of the season? No, not for this week. Terrible, terrible schedule for them this week. So you don't get excited about that. Because, yeah, sure, Monday, whatever. And then you get 2-0s Tuesday, Wednesday. Then you get 2-0s Friday, Saturday. Absolutely yuck. No way you commit yourself to Drew Timme. None whatsoever. Don't do it. But I wanted to highlight it because he's the fresh name, the new signing. The Claxton's out and Sharp's out and Johnson's out and Russell's out and Clowney's out. He's going to get minutes and he probably puts up an okay game on Monday. But that's it. It's Monday. And you don't want to commit yourself to that. If you've got the ability to single day stream, he will be an interesting guy. Just because those guys, I think, are going to have some real trouble of getting available to play. But otherwise, no way. A couple other names I want to mention here. We'll go to John Mobo in Toronto. Again, very much what I said earlier with Jamal Shead. I just don't know what they're going to do in terms of their resting plans and those guys. But Mobo's at least useful enough to stream in. It's somewhat interesting. KJ Simpson, he can play every game on his 2-way contract. He's probably going to start most games with LaMelo Ball out. Some games they'll go Nick Smith, who's dreadful. Some days it'll be Damian Bob, but he is limited on his 2-way games. If I'm in a deeper format, KJ Simpson's got more appeal there. He can be an assist guy. He can score okay. He had a decent steal rate coming out of college as well. They play a Sunday, Monday back to get back against 2 terrible teams, and they go Wednesday, Friday. So not bad schedule for KJ. I'd be a little bit interested in that, much like I'd be interested in one of these Washington Wizards players, AJ Johnson. Johnson is flashing some stuff. Now, obviously, it's on a team that is completely not real. It's on in a time in the year where things are completely fake. But what we are getting, he got 42 minutes last game. He started 2 of the last 3 games, AJ Johnson. He's going to be sort of back and forth. And if we actually get the news that Chris Middleton's done, and I think we might be there. He left the last game with knee soreness and then didn't play on Saturday. I think that might be it for him with 2 games left. We don't know the status of Keyshawn George. Johnson's not going to give them wins, but he's going to be out there and he can put up numbers. We're moving unbelievably into the territory where we've got to consider AJ Johnson. We've also got to consider his teammate, Colby Jones. Colby Jones, has played over 26 minutes for 4 consecutive games. In fact, he's gone 25 minutes or more in 6 of his last 7 games. There was a random 7-minute game in there as well, which is that was the random, was it the Vukcevic bench game? No, it wasn't. It was just a random game where he played 7 minutes. Jones is only averaging 23 fantasy points over the last week. He's 169th in category leagues, but he's not rostered anywhere. He's averaging 10 points with 3 rebounds, but the value is coming from steal numbers, 1.5, and blocks, 0.8. The shooting is bad, but the minutes are there. Now, I would probably prefer AJ Johnson. He's a little bit of a better prospect. He's a bit younger. He could do a little bit more stuff in terms of assists. But Jones has got a role here. It's going to be him and Justin Champagny. But if Middleton's done and if George sits some games, he's a name you've got to know. And you just need to know where sort of things are rolling. They play 3 games in 4 nights to begin next week as well. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So maybe there's value in looking at AJ Johnson. Maybe there's value in looking at Colby Jones, especially if your league is a little bit deeper, under the expectation that Middleton won't play, and you're going to get shenanigans with guys like Jordan Poole as well. They play against Miami, Sacramento, and Orlando as well, so none of the real tanking teams, but they're also not great teams. So just be aware of the presence of Colby Jones and AJ Johnson in Washington. And that, on World Backup Day, is a waiver wire show. We're going to do a Monday preview show and then a Sunday recap show later on in the day. In the meantime, I just want you to hit the thumb up on the show. I want you to subscribe and leave your comments down below. Have you added Drew Timme? God, I hope not. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.